Hello people, I'm Mark Ryan, a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist from Hashimoto'sHealing.com. And in this video, we're going to cover a number of different issues related to fatigue. I want to give you a quick overview of what's in the next level portion of Module 2. And then I want to touch on some different things for boosting cellular energy, and then talk about some specific areas that we also need to analyze and test as well. Okay, one thing I want to cover now is where we get energy from on a cellular level. And really, this comes down to the mitochondria. They think mitochondria actually descended from bacteria that became symbiotic and started to live with us, and then we incorporated them in our body and they became part of our body. And they really are our energy factories inside the body. So our number one job really is to boost the mitochondria and the energy they produce, which is something in the form of ATP. Right? In our bodies, energy comes in the form of glucose. We usually get that from food, sugar stored as fat. But your body doesn't actually run on glucose. It runs on ATP. And ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. And you see these three P's, those are the phosphate bonds that when we break those, that's what energy is released. So the more they're broken, the more energy is released. And from a diet standpoint, one of the things we want to do here is avoid grains, avoid dairy, avoid nightshades. So a diet like the autoimmune paleo diet is a really good starting point. Again, we're going to start with the autoimmune paleo diet, and then I recommend shifting to an oral tolerance diet, continuing to avoid grains by and large, avoid dairy, especially made in the US, and avoiding nightshades. And you can check out my videos where I discuss oral tolerance and why it's important in Module 3. And next here, I want to talk about some specific supplements that are really helpful for boosting ATP. It's Powerhouse. So the first one is coenzyme Q10. And CoQ10 is found in the mitochondria, and it helps us with something called oxidative phosphorylation. And that's the metabolic pathway that causes the cells to use enzymes to oxidize nutrients. And that's where that energy is released from those P's you saw in that diagram. Natural production of CoQ10 declines with age, and as we get older, we just naturally make less of it. So it's important to supplement particularly as you age, but it's also super important if you're fatigued. This is one of the first areas we should be looking at. The next thing to look at is something called PQQ. And PQQ stands for pyroquinone quinone, which this is something that basically heightens the effects of CoQ10. One study I looked at showed that PQQ deficiency in mice could lead to 20 or 30% reduction in mitochondria. So we want to increase this by eating more kiwi and papaya and tofu, parsley, and a number of different foods. And the great thing about this is these are powerful antioxidants. And I've given you, here's a quick list, but I've also given you a much more thorough list in the handout of all the foods that are helpful for this. Next is omega-3 fatty acids. These are commonly found in oily fish and a few other sources. Omega-3 has long been known to be good for the brain and for your cells. And part of this is because that high amounts of omega-3 in cell membranes increase the fluidity of the cell. Right? That helps nutrients pass more quickly into them and therefore reach the mitochondria and nourish the mitochondria. Next is alpha-lipoic acid. This is something else super important for mitochondrial function. Find this in broccoli, spinach, carrots, red meat, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, peas, and beets. This is an organosulfur compound, and it's a very helpful antioxidant. It's a cofactor in 5 different enzymes, and 2 of those enzymes are in what's called the Krebs cycle, which is an important cycle for energy generation and ATP production. So super important. It's also really good for inflammation. Next thing is thiamine, or B1. What B1 does in the body is help your body convert food into energy. And it does this in a couple different ways. It helps get energy from carbohydrates. It also helps with the release of hydrochloric acid in the stomach, which is important for proper digestion and the breaking down of nutrients. And many people with Hashimoto's have low stomach acid, or they don't release enough of it. I looked at one study on thiamine from Italy where they prescribed it for women with Hashimoto's, and 2 of the women were given an oral dose of 600 milligrams per day. A third was given an injection of 100 milligrams every 4 days. And all of the women were given a survey of their fatigue before, and then again 20 days later after taking the regimen of thiamine. And everyone reported experiencing relief from the fatigue, and 2 of them had complete remission of fatigue, just like totally gone. So definitely something worth trying. The next one I think is really helpful is niacin. Niacin is also called vitamin B3. It's made from amino acid tryptophan. And it's present in 3 different forms. There's nicotinic acid, niacin, and niacinamide. The nicotinic acid and niacin can cause flushing, which can be pretty unpleasant. So I recommend the 3rd form, which is niacinamide. This form also is a coenzyme in every cell of the body. With something called NAD. It helps to promote it. And this is an important intermediary in energy production. NAD links 2 biochemical pathways in the Krebs cycle. Also, again, critically important for making more ATP. So without sufficient NAD, that enzyme, energy production slows down and every single cell in your body will be slower. This is one I take, and I found a huge difference in my fatigue levels once I started taking this regularly. And it's available. You can get pretty large doses of it. I think it's 1,000 milligrams. But also really worth trying. Next thing is vitamin D. Vitamin D, of course, is important for the regulatory part of the immune system, but it's also really important in helping muscle repair and mitochondrial function. Mitochondria needs vitamin D. Next is vitamin A. Vitamin A is also a fat-soluble vitamin like vitamin D. One thing, it is one of those vitamins that has definitely a Goldilocks zone. You don't want to overdo vitamin A. But it's really helpful for gut health also and keeping the immune system in the gut calm. And in my store I have a combo vitamin A, vitamin D capsule that's very helpful. And the last thing, really important supplement is water, right? If you're dehydrated, then your metabolism slows. So really important to drink filtered water. It doesn't have any fluorides or bromides because those chemicals can definitely contribute to dehydration. So those are the supplements. Let's recap them real quick. All super important. Again, coenzyme Q10, really helpful. PQQ works to make coenzyme Q10 more effective. Omega-3 fatty acids, alpha lipoic acid, vitamin B1 or thiamine, vitamin B3 or niacin. You want to get the form of niacinamide. Vitamin D, vitamin A, and water. All fantastic supplements for boosting energy. Right, in the next part of the video, we're going to take a look at some specific issues and why they're so impactful and why it's so important to deal with those and to evaluate and treat them if they're there.
Hope, help, and healing. With a hint of humor, Hashimoto'sHealing.com.